Hello and welcome to the Clarity Fiber Arts Podcast. My name is Jody and I am the dyer behind a small hand-dyed yarn company called Clarity Fiber Arts. If you are new to my relatively new podcast, welcome, and if you are a returning viewer, welcome back, and I want to thank you so much for coming back and tuning in. This is episode 9, I believe, of my relatively new YouTube channel, and we are growing at a pretty good pace here. I've gotten some new subscribers since my last episode, and I am thoroughly enjoying all of the interaction that I've had here on the channel. And so, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I can be found on social media as Clarity Fiber Arts on both Facebook and Instagram. And I have recently changed my shop platform from an Etsy shop to my own personal website, which I have been working on. I've been stocking it with some of my hand-dyed yarn and also the hand-cranked socks that I make on my Erlbacher circular sock machine, and have thoroughly been enjoying sort of learning the ins and outs of developing your own website and sort of making that into my own little personal expression of my own creativity. And so it's been really fun, and I will put the link down here. I was fortunate enough to not have to tweak my name at all. It is www.clarityfiberarts.com. And as I said, when you go there, there's a limited amount of stock, but I am sort of working on developing the different sections of the webpage and am awaiting an arrival of some new fingering weight sock yarn to dye. I dye primarily sock yarn, although I am hoping to get into dyeing some sweater weight, some DK weight, and I have that on its way as well. So really exciting stuff for me, and I've really been enjoying a lot of the interaction on my YouTube channel. And so I look forward to all the growth that's going on here in 2023. So far, it's been really exciting and thrilling to be able to see this YouTube channel grow, as well as my hand-dyed yarn company grow through developing an individual platform. As I've said before, this YouTube channel is not directly about my hand-dyed yarn company. I will provide a small shop update at the end of this episode, and I usually do that every episode depending on what I'm doing and what I'm stocking in the shop. But this YouTube channel is more about connecting with other knitters and talking about the things that I'm knitting separate from my yarn dyeing and things like that. And so if you're interested in the shop update, I will provide a small one and talk to you a little bit about what I've already put in the shop here at the end of the podcast. But right now I just want to talk about what I'm knitting on, which I am thoroughly loving. In the last episode, I told my tale of my renewed love of Newton yarn, and I continue to still love that yarn. If you're unfamiliar with the story, just a short encapsulated version. I attempted when I first ordered Newton yarn back in the summer. I ordered a large quantity of it. I dove in head first, and I was hoping to knit a cardigan for my husband out of the Newton yarn. And I picked the Tamarack cardigan by Jared Flood. It's a bottom-up cardigan, and I tried to hold the Newton yarn double on its own and struggled a great deal with the yarn breaking. Once I got almost halfway through and the sweater got very heavy, and when it came to applying the sleeves, things got really heavy and I was having to flip the cardigan around and just really was getting thoroughly frustrated with the yarn breaking and just a bunch of mishaps. So I quietly put it in a corner and left it there. And in last episode, I was talking about how this Newton yarn, this large quantity of Newton yarn that I had bought was just really shouting to me from my shelf where I have my stash, and it was just bothering me that I sort of frogged the sweater and sort of moved on without even really attempting to use it again. That's not kind of in my personality. It really bothers me when I can't figure stuff out. And so I picked it up again after seeing lots of podcasters talk about how when they held the Newton with a spun sort of woven strand of yarn, even a lace weight strand of yarn, the integrity of the working yarn became a lot stronger, and they were able to knit happily with the Newton yarn. So I followed in their footsteps and set about to pick a pattern for my husband that was a little bit easier in its construction. The tamarack was all seed stitch, and so in my ambition I just kind of went way off the rails with that. And so what I chose, as I spoke about in the last episode, was the cardigan number 8 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I had gone on Ravelry and searched a bunch of cardigans, found this sort of oversized raglan drop shoulder sweater construction that he really kind of wanted. He wanted an oversized, sort of baggy, comfy, cozy, warm sweater and a cardigan that he could wear at night. He's always cold. And so I saw a couple of people on Ravelry knit the cardigan number 8 by My Favorite Things Knitwear for a man. And so that was the plan. It is a top-down shoulder construction. And the last time I spoke, it was just, I think I was only a couple days in, it was just a wee little scrap of a cardigan. And I am happy to report, as much as I tried to finish it for today's episode, I came really close. But this is 2 weeks worth of knitting. Let me get this straight here. This is 2 weeks worth of knitting. And here it is. And so I'm going to hold it out this way to show you. I absolutely love this. This is Newton yarn in the colorway Silhouette, which is sort of a ombre. What I'm finding is an ombre style sort of fade here, as you can see on this sleeve. And I held it with excuse me, I have a strand of fuzz in my throat. I held it with a strand of DK weight yarn that I had a ton of at home here that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. It was Yarn Bee, and it's a DK weight soft and sleek style yarn, and it was in the colorway Linen, which was sort of like a grayish, I would call it. And it turned out with this beautiful effect. The way the yarn faded on the cardigan is, I think, just so cool. And then if you can see, I'm going to hold it up to the camera there, then the white little V's that you see in the knitting is the Yarn Bee. And it just sort of made this beautiful sort of marling effect. So there it is, and I'm going to show you the sleeve because the other sleeve is a little bit different, and I had this sort of happen before in another pattern that I knit with a marling yarn, and I just loved it. So here's the other sleeve. It's sort of the opposite. The prior one was light to dark, and this one goes dark to light. And so there's the other. Now the sides of the both sides here, if you can see. You probably can't see very well. I'm going to try and hold it up here. Both sides wound up kind of marling in the same way, which I was really lucky for, because that, once it's closed, is going to come up to be like a stripe. This sweater is lightweight. I'm trying to think of what else. It's finished around the bottom with an Italian tubular bind off. I did struggle again with Newton yarn when trying to do the Italian tubular bind off, trying to sew in or sew the bind off with the Newton, trying to pull it through stitches. I kept breaking the yarn, and it was pretty frustrating. So what I did was I just broke the Newton off at a place where I could weave it in, and then I took the DK weight yarn bee and did all the finishing. It has the Italian bind off on the tubular bind off on the sleeve edge, which gives it sort of a nice kind of rolled look here on the end. And the only thing that I have to do yet is, as you can see, I have some ends hanging there. The only thing I have to do yet is the button band and the neck edging, which will bring this in a little bit further. And that is double knitting, which I have never done before. And so as much as my husband is chafing at the bit to have this sweater, he keeps asking me when it's going to be finished. I let him try it on today when I finish the second sleeve. As much as he is chafing to have this sweater, I intend to take my time. I'm not sure how tricky that sort of thing is, but I did lightly steam block this. Again, comment down below if you've worked with Newton yarn and how you block your sweaters. I laid this over sort of an ironing board, and then I have a garment steamer, which I just lightly held over top and sort of steamed everything out just to get things straight and have it look pretty here for the podcast. My intent is to do that again here around the neck edging, because from what I understand, I'm going to be picking up stitches all along the edge and double knitting the whole thing. And so I will tread lightly with that. If you've had the experience of double knitting, please, again, comment below. But this is my first Newton garment, my first unspun garment. And I'm a little curious as to what the best blocking technique is. I'm not going to lie, I am afraid to soak it. Obviously, it seems as though soaking isn't the thing to do. But I'm not sure. So any sort of help in that realm I would love it. So that is my cardigan number 8 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I knit it in the 5th size. This has a lot of positive ease. It's got a finished positive ease of, I believe, 13 inches. So you've got 6.5, kind of on each side. And my hubby tried it on today, and it fits him really great. And so I'm loving it. I would highly, highly recommend this pattern. I searched and searched for cardigan patterns that were not pieced together and were not bottom up. And this was one of the ones that had such great reviews. And as I said, it really, I will post a picture as soon as I finish it, or maybe in the next episode of this on my husband, but it really does look good. It sort of looks like, it reminds me of with the drop shoulder construction, it reminds me of like a baseball jacket or like a varsity jacket style cardigan. And so I've got the neck bands, and then on the picture, this has pockets. They're just sort of sewn on pockets. And he said that he also wanted those. So I've got the neckband and the pockets to work on. So that's my cardigan number 8. Not a whole lot more to say about that, except that it has renewed my love for unspun yarn. So much so that I bought some more. And I will tell you, this brings me to the point in the podcast where I wanted to talk about my stash. I've heard a lot of podcasters in the new year talking about wanting to knit from their stash, not acquire any more yarn into their hands, or at least try to anyway. And relative to that, and regarding myself, I have to say that I don't have much of a stash. I have a tendency to be a person who looks through Ravelry, picks my project, reads reviews, looks at what people have used, and then go out and purchase the quantity of yarn that I need for that project. That being said, I am a dyer. And so behind me, you'll see, back over here, you will see tons and tons of, cubbies full of fingering weight yarn. A lot of that yarn I use to hand crank my socks and for my sock business. I started cranking socks as a means to obviously have some new socks, but also to showcase the fingering weight yarn that I was dyeing, so I could give people an example of what the yarn might knit up like into socks. And so that was a whole journey in and of itself, and one that was difficult, hard to learn. Knitting machines are not easy. It took me about 6 months until I got a sock that I was pretty happy with. And I've grown over the year and a half that I've had my sock machine to really, really love cranking socks. And so it's turned into a little bit of a business for me, and I do have some of those socks listed over on my website. So just a little explanation, because as this podcast progresses through the months here in 2023, I will be acquiring sweater weight yarn, probably DK weight and above, because I do not have a huge stash that I can pull from. And that's not a prideful thing at all. I'm a little more of I'm not adventurous when it comes to choices. Maybe it's because I'm a Gemini. I'm not really sure, but I can never make up my mind and don't have the luxury of, sort of just buying yarn that I think is beautiful. If I see something beautiful, I will make note of it and keep it stored away for a time when I find the sweater and the pattern that I really love. So anyway, I do know that I love the Unspun yarn, and I knew that I wanted to knit again with Unspun yarn, and I thought it would be fun for the channel and for the sake of learning new things to try a different type. And so what I am trying is this yarn here. This is the Manchelopi yarn from Wool Dreamers. The Manchelopi yarn is made from sheep that produce the Manchego, I think I'm saying it correctly, Manchego cheese. It is produced from the fleece from those sheep. And, excuse me, this is, as I said, Manchelopi yarn. It is in the colorway, sorry, I have to look at my notes here for 1 second. This is the colorway, sorry, I'm holding it up here at the, oh my goodness, I'm fumbling here. Okay. Whoop. Oh my Lord. All right, here we go. Verde Botella, which again, I'm not sure, but I know Verde's green. Obviously, it's this beautiful, like pine green color, a real dark green color. And I think probably Verde Botella means green bottle, like almost like a wine bottle color would be. And that's exactly what this yarn looks like. It's like a deep sort of green. And as I said before, I got this yarn at Wool Dreamers. It's 100% Manchega. Oh, Manchega? Oh, it says Manchega. Is that A or O? I'm not sure. Manchega wool. And so I'm going to put here's the front of the card. Sorry, that's the Wool Dreamers, and it's got the plates of yarn, which I love, and I just think are so cool. And then here's the back of the card. This is all the information on the Unspun style yarn. I'll leave it there in case you want to take a screenshot real quick. But as it says on here, this yarn comes in 2 strands. So let me see if I can find. So, oh wait, this one doesn't look like it is. Let me get, it must be peeling away. So, all right, here we go. Let me pull this away. So when you get this, it comes double. So there it is. There's 2 plies together. And so you can knit with it immediately 2-ply, which is a difference from the Knit-In. The Knit-In comes sort of single-stranded. I have heard relative to this yarn that it has a little bit more of a tensile strength regarding breakage, that it doesn't break quite, it's like a really slight difference, but doesn't break quite as easily as the Knit-In, and maybe that's because it is held double. I will be holding it double for my next project. I do have a project in mind for this yarn. I am going to be knitting the Turtle Dove by Espace Tricot, the Turtle Dove 2 by Espace Tricot. I intend to knit it as a turtleneck, full-length sleeves, and so I ordered 5 plates of this yarn. So as it says on the card, if you hold it double-stranded in 100-gram plates, you get 251 yards of yarn. And they suggest a needle size of 6 to 8. I'm not sure what the Turtle Dove is knit on. Something tells me it's a 7 or a 9. And then single-stranded for 100 grams, you get 503 yards. So a little thicker than my fingering weight yarn that I knit my socks with, but I am super duper excited to be knitting the Turtle Dove out of this beautiful sort of bottle green color. I have the sunlight coming right in here behind the camera, and so this is pretty true to the color that it is. And what I have a tendency of doing is pre-winding this into a ball so it's a little more manageable. The width of this, I know some people knit straight out of the center, but it becomes a little unmanageable even at home here. The width of this, sort of as you're coming off, I like to pull it from the outside because sometimes having to yank out of the center, at least with the Knit-In, gave me a problem. So I like to come from the outside. So rather than do that and keep the width of this and try and manage all of that, I put it into a ball, as many people do. And then what I do when I'm working with this held with another is I tend to put my yarn in a basket like this. This is just sort of like a rigid style basket with 2 leather handles. These big sweater projects are not anything that I take along with me just when we go to coffee shops or whatever. I always have projects on the go for those types of things, and so this stays at home with me. And if I ball up the Unspun held with another ball of what I will talk about next, the 2 fit in here pretty nicely. They don't sort of collide or get twisted around each other. And depending on what I'm knitting, for temporary at least, there's a lot of room I can kind of just pile it here on the top. And so I got this at Hobby Lobby. It's just sort of like a rigid fabric, flat bottomed little basket that I can throw everything I need into and just sort of carry it upstairs and downstairs depending on where I'm at. So I just thought I would show those and my method of sort of toting things all around. I used to just kind of put everything in a pile and carry it around, but no more. I found that method and I love it so much. It really works well. So I needed a little bit more weight. I think I should really know this. I think the pattern calls for Aran weight yarn. And so I needed a little more than the Manchelopi held double. And so I started to look for a lace weight mohair that was affordable. That yarn was quite affordable. However, I know that lace weight mohair, silk mohair can be pricey, and I think for 5 plates of that yarn, it was $80 plus shipping. And so not a bad price point in terms of each plate, but I was already in $80 and was looking for some sort of mohair that was a little more affordable. And so I went onto the hobby website and I found a very well reviewed, I will insert a picture here, mohair yarn. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes again. The style is called Diablo and it's lace weight yarn. The color that I chose was Dusty Pine and it is arriving hopefully later today, but when held up in a picture, fingers crossed, it looked like a dead ringer for the Verde Botella. And so this Diablo lace weight yarn, I paid $4 a ball for. And it's a combination of 30% mohair, 30% nylon, and 40% acrylic. But as I said, the reviews on this yarn as a substitute for like the kid silkays were excellent over and over and over again. So hopefully in the next podcast, I'll be able to give you a good review of how I find it in terms of scratchiness and also in terms of using it held with the unspun yarn. And I'm just looking here to see if there's anything else I want to say about that. I don't think so. So again, knitting the Turtle Dove 2 with the green unspun yarn and the hobby lace weight mohair held double. Hopefully in the next episode I will have a swatch at least, and hopefully after I finish the button band on my husband's sweater, I will be on my way through to my Turtle Dove. I tend to be somewhat of a monogamous knitter. I get on a roll with wanting things done, and I sort of set lofty goals for myself of finishing sweaters in a couple of weeks. That's just sort of how I roll. However, at this point in time, I'm going to be casting on several projects, and so I don't think that will be the case. We have a little bit of traveling coming up, and so I definitely want to have some things on the go relative to that. Interestingly, so I live near Philadelphia, and our Eagles are going to the Super Bowl. And if you can see this beautiful color green is also my Eagles green. And so huge, massive sports fans around here. We will likely have a Super Bowl party to cheer on our Eagles. And with that being Eagles green, I sort of set this goal of having this sweater done by the Super Bowl so I could wear it and support them by wearing green. But Super Bowl is, I think, 2 weeks away, and we shall see where that goes with that. If so, I won't be knitting the other things that I will be talking about. The next winter knit plan on my list is, and I will insert a picture here, it is the Waterberry Plaid Blanket by Alexandra Tavel of Two of Wands. And I saw this on another podcaster's episode. No, I'm sorry. I was watching Amy of Me Knits, which if you are not following her, you should. She is a prolific knitter, knits a ton, and really is great at explaining all the different things she uses and how she gets things done and what she likes and doesn't like. If you are not a viewer of hers, you should definitely go check her out. I thoroughly enjoy her podcast. But she was showing the Cambria shawl by Two of Wands, and I went over to check out some of her patterns. I knit a tank top of hers last summer and really loved it. And so when I was browsing through the patterns, I downloaded the Cambria shawl, but then I saw this one, and it is just so cool. I am in love with that sort of traditional plaid styling of pretty much anything. I've been on the lookout for a long plaid winter coat, for like a wool winter long plaid coat for such a long time, and just haven't been able to find the right color combination for what I've been looking for. So anyway, I found this blanket scarf. It looks big. It looks like you can kind of wrap yourself up in it. But the really cool thing is you knit the scarf, and then within the stripes of the scarf, you go back in, and it says on the pattern you use a weaving technique to get the vertical lines in the scarf. And so I saw this pattern and immediately fell in love. I'm hoping to knit it in almost the same colors as on this photo. However, I'm going to swap out the blues for like a deep gray and hopefully like a little bit of a lighter gray. And so this scarf is knit in Lion Brand Re-Tweed, which I am having a little bit of a tough time finding at my local Michael's, Hobby Lobby, or Joann. So I've been all the places and I really like this Re-Tweed because it has a wool component to it. And so and not that I'm opposed to knitting with acrylic. Obviously I put acrylic in my husband's sweater, but I was just hoping for something with a little bit of wool content so that when I wrap up in it, it's a little bit warmer. And I'm really excited to knit this. I think this will be a good travel piece, although it grows. It's just straight back and forth knitting, and so for some car knitting and things like that, I think it'll be really nice. And so I think I'm having to go to the Lion Brand website, which the last time I checked, they were having some delays. I forget why they said they were having delays, but I wouldn't get the yarn or it wouldn't be shipped until February 5th, which is not a problem for me. But yeah, it calls for 4 different colors in the blanket, and it has some cool fringing at the bottom. As you can see, whoops, there goes my battery. As you can see, it has some cool fringing at the bottom, and you actually take that fringe and go ahead and give it a braid. So it just looks like a very cool pattern. And so winter knitting plans include the turtle dove, they include the waterberry plaid blanket, and then one more that I have. This pattern is going to be for my granddaughter. It is by Frogginette, and I will put a picture here. This is the fingering weight version, and it's basically a little shrug. My granddaughter is 16 months old. You may have seen some knits on here for her before, but I just crave knitting for her. Right now I haven't had anything on the needles for her in a bit, and I see I'm getting a visitor, and probably Fig is gonna go crazy here in just about a second, so I think I will stop here. But again, I'm knitting the Frogginette. I'm hoping to knit it in my own yarn, my own hand-dyed yarn, in which I will show next episode as well. But this is just a cute little shrug, and then I'm hoping to pair it with a little sundress for her for Easter. All right, so I think I'm going to stop here. I will come back after the barking has subsided. And I will just do a really quick little shop update to show you what I've put in the shop and what I plan to put in the shop. All right, see you soon. Bye. Okay, we are back. I say we because this is the dog in question that I was referring to. Oh, and there it is, right on cue. I think she sees herself on the camera. It's kind of crazy. Okay, buddy. All right. This is little Figgy. She hasn't made an appearance in a while. She is a mini dachshund with a very large mouth. And so when I saw the delivery coming that I was getting, I figured I would stop the camera because it would be a ton of barking and you wouldn't be able to hear me. So this is our big mouth girl. She is a mini dachshund. She is quite a chub, but she is a 7-year-old mini, and despite her barking, we love her very much. And it's been a while since she's been on the podcast, and I always love seeing people's dogs. And so this is our girl. We have 4 children, and they're all out of the nest. She's the only one left, and so she's quite spoiled. Aren't you, buddy? Aren't you? Say hi to everyone. All right. Love you. Go back to your pillow. Okay, so I just wanted to pop on real quick with one last thing, and it's regarding my shop update, again, on my new location at clarityfiberarts.com. As I said before, I do dye fingering weight sock yarn primarily, and when that fingering weight sock yarn started to pile up because I love dyeing so much, I needed to find an outlet, and so I bought an Erlbacher sock knitting machine for a monumental birthday that I had. I had a 50th birthday, and my husband said go big, and I said I wanted a sock knitting machine, and he said go for it. And it arrived, and it was a long learning curve, but I definitely have it now, and I still, no matter how many socks I crank, I just love it so much. And so I decided to offer some in the shop in addition to the sock yarn. And so in most cases of the shop update, you will see the skein of yarn and then, or a sock set, whatever I plan on putting in there, and then how the sock looks knit up. And so what I have right now is a lot of yarn stash that is just sort of experimentation. It is things that I've listed in my Etsy shop, the colorways that turn out the way I want them. I list them in the Etsy shop and then typically crank a couple pairs of socks. Since starting the sock cranking business, I have placed my socks in a couple of local artisan stores, and they do super well. They sell out in like a month, which I'm really kind of proud of. And it's not about really making any sort of money for me. I just love to do this, and of course I'm not going to do it for nothing, but my pleasure is in being creative and trying different dye techniques and things like that. And then as a result, because you tend to have to dye at least three skeins of time in a color of yarn in a colorway at a time, I have this abundance of sock yarn left over. And so Clarity Fiber Arts was born, and I'm hoping in 2023, now that I have my own website, to really sort of take my business by the horns, so to speak, and develop some other aspects of it, perhaps have a blog over on my website eventually. But as for now, I'm just loving just building. Sorry, there goes my battery again. I'm just loving building my business over there one little step at a time. I'm in no hurry. It's not a source of income for us per se, but I just thoroughly enjoy the process. And so this is typically, I have my little my little foot here. I like to see these better than on a sock blocker. But as of now, I started with a men's collection of socks that I use sort of like an over dye style of dyeing the yarn. And so as you can see, it sort of is varying shades of, in this particular sock, like a brick red. And I do a 10 row hung hem so that it's got a very nice sort of top seam there going on. And then I do a 3x1 rib, which makes the sock fit nice and snug on the calf. I do I'm sure it'll make sense to most people. Then I do a 10 row pre-heel so that things sort of cinch in and get tighter and fit nicely around the foot and ankle. And then I do whatever size, whatever amount of rows that's called for particular sizes of feet. And so what I do is I tend to go between sizes. I'll knit something that's equivalent to a men's size 8. And then that sock tends to fit a men's 7, a men's 8, and a men's 9. And so I just kind of go with those three things. Sometimes I put Lycra in my socks, but typically when I do the ribbing style, I don't have to. It hugs your foot nicely. The yarn that I use is 75-25 merino and nylon. And so the nylon content in the sock also sort of causes it to fit really nicely. And so, with all that being said, I will be listing the socks that I crank away on in my shop. They are sized according to men's and women's sizes, and they are listed over there for $30. So I think it's pretty cost effective when you think about that. A skein of sock yarn is a hand dyed skein of sock yarn is almost $28. I'm only charging a couple dollars more to crank out these socks, and when you knit them on a circular sock machine, you do have to hand sew the toes shut with a Kitchener stitch. And so, we're talking about a process here where I receive the bare yarn, I hand dye it, which I love, because I'm, in the case of these socks, sometimes I don't even write a recipe down. I just play around, and whatever turns out, and then they get listed as a sock, and I don't really have to reproduce the colorway. But if I'm really, going for a certain colorway, of course, I will write the recipe down and then have that available also in the shop very shortly as yarn available to you as well. But, I'm aware that not everybody loves to knit socks, and if you don't love to knit socks, I would really love to turn you on to the appeal of a hand-cranked wool sock. They are just luxurious to wear, and once you start wearing them, they are quite addictive. And just the other day I ran out of my hand knit socks because they were all in the hand cranked socks, because they were all in the wash, and I had to put a regular old cotton Nike little footy sock on. Ew, and it felt really not so good. And I'm not usually one to be that fussy, but I put this sock on my foot and I could not wait to get it off. It was sort of sticky and not very nice. And wool has a lot of great properties, as I'm sure everybody knows, for antibacterial. Sounds weird to discuss, but these socks can be worn multiple times before you have to rewash them. They don't smell in the least, and they keep your feet nice and warm in the winter and dry in the summertime. So in the summertime, I tend to crank little shorty socks, and with the new trend and rage of the clear Uggs, which, comment below, tell me what you think of the clear Uggs. I wanted a pair of clear Uggs for Christmas, and I did not get them. So I'm hoping for some for Valentine's Day, not really sure that I'm totally in love with them, but what I'm totally in love with is showing off my hand cranked socks. And I have this colorway. This is in a men's collection, and like I said, it has different shades in it. There's some other ones listed in my shop that have navy blues and greens. I try and take a real good close-up. So yeah, that's about it. That's a little explanation of what happens over in my shop. And stay tuned, because I am really on a roll with listing things in there, and I have all sorts of ideas running around in my head. So stay tuned. There is some blank sock yarn speeding my way, hopefully today, and so hopefully tomorrow I can get into the dye pots, which I've missed so much, and get those new things out to you. So that's it for shop news as of now. On a personal note, let's see. I'm going to insert some footage. We had the Pennsylvania Farm Show here in Pennsylvania, in Harrisburg, the capital area of Pennsylvania, and that is at the State Farm Show Complex. And my goodness, we had such a great day. We went with my son and his wife and our granddaughter, who just completely adored all the animals. She is just starting to get her words, and one of the words that she has picked up from reading books and things is moo. And so it was the most adorable thing, because every animal, whether it was a sheep or a goat or a bunny or a cow, which were definitively her favorite, she would look and point and she would say moo. And it was just the most adorable thing. She was saying moo all day long. So it was super, super cute. I wish I could suspend her at this age. She is 16 months old, starting to find her words. Since the farm show, she has learned all sorts of animal sounds, and we read animal sounds books, and it's just great. But we had so much fun, and I just loved seeing all the livestock, they had horses, cows, sheep, bunnies, alpacas, llamas, everything. It was just so great. But the sheep were just the most adorable and gentle creatures you ever wanted to meet, and really well taken care of. These farmers love their animals, and it was just, as a knitter and as a person who sources wool from these farmers, it's just so lovely to see how much love gets poured into all of these animals that are being shown at the show, and the farmers are so happy to talk to you about their processes and how they raise their animals, because they truly do love them. And it was just a really wonderful thing to see. And then, of course, you have all your other things, all the canning and the cooking displays, things like that. And then I will insert some footage of the giant butter sculpture, which is always a fan favorite. They have the butter sculpture in a cooled case, and these people sculpt butter. It is totally crazy, and I came to find that the butter does get repurposed. It's not, I'm not sure what they use it for animal-wise, but it gets repurposed somehow into their food. I guess they need the fat as well as humans do, and so it gets repurposed into their grains and things, and so all of this giant sculpture of butter does not go to waste. So that's something exciting that happened. Oh, and then one other thing, we had our first snowfall, and I kept saying, I want snow, as soon as it snows, I want to go for a walk. And it just so happened that my husband was home that day, and we took our winter walk on a favorite trail of ours. And I'm going to insert some footage, because there is just the most magical little forest. It's like a mini forest in the center of a field. It was definitively planted there. This trail is maintained by the county. It is it's just such a beautiful trail. You often see deer along the trail and whatnot, but it's definitely marked and maintained by the county services, and therefore it's really beautiful. But about a quarter of a mile in, when you look to your left, there is this area of pines. You'll see it on the footage. But when you walk towards those pines, you can see somebody had a vision of this. It is called Winter's Way. There's a sign there. And so you sort of walk towards this tall pine tree area, and then there's an opening where you can go inside. And when you go inside, it's this just magical, sheltered dreamland, and the trees in there still manage to catch all the snow, and you're sort of in there and you feel like you're in a real life snow globe. It is just the most special and magical place, and it's crazy to think that it's only a short distance from where we live, but yeah, I specifically wanted to go to the trail to see this place when it snows. And so I really hope that you enjoy the footage that I inserted. I did put a video up on my Clarity Instagram, I believe, also. So some of you may have seen that if you follow me over there as well. So I think that's it. I've rambled on long enough. And let's see, I hope to be getting back to you in another 2 weeks with an update. There definitely probably won't be much of a shop update. I am scheduled to have surgery on February 17th. I am having a second partial hysterectomy surgery. The first surgery that I had over the summer was sort of some pelvic floor repair and things, and it actually failed, and now I'm having to have a partial hysterectomy. And so I'm hoping that it goes as smoothly as the first surgery, and I'm hoping to film something real quick there before I head under the knife, but if not, you'll know where I am and what I'm up to. And hopefully I won't be in too much pain to knit. I fully intend to get a lot of knitting done, which is why I lined up all the stuff that I talked about earlier in the podcast. And so, yeah, it is what it is. Us females, we sure as hell go through a lot of stuff. And sorry for the cursing, but, sometimes my body makes me a little bit mad. Wonderfully, beautifully created, but when it starts to go south, literally, it can be a little frustrating, especially the fact that I've been through this. It's a 10 to 12 week recovery. It prevents me from watching my granddaughter, babysitting my granddaughter, which I do 2 days a week, and so I have to be really cautious with lifting her and things like that, and it's just a little frustrating that I have to start from square one, but there's many people out there going through lots worse than me, and so no pity there. I'll be fine. I'll be back to what I love to do, and hopefully back to you guys soon. So that being said, I hope that you have enjoyed this podcast. I hope you found some time to grab your knitting and work on some things. And I hope that you find some time moving ahead to grab your needles, sit down, find some relaxation and some peace in this craft that we share together. I will talk to you soon. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking and subscribing. I know everybody says that. However, it really does help me get out there, and it helps all of us kind of connect with each other over this thing that we love. I hope that you are well, and I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.